Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this, your Scorpio November 2023 reading and forecast. Hi, I'm Nigel Saint James, clairvoyant. We're going to use the William Blake Tarot today. William Blake was an Englishman who was born, I guess in the mid-1700s, died around about 1820. He was a mystic and a poetic genius, up there with the likes of Shakespeare himself, as far as I'm concerned. And his mysticism also extended towards his art, of which he was a very prolific artist, and we'll see these are all his artworks, among some of his artworks that we're looking here today. Now, because the art is very mystical, you, of course, can take from it what you want. You don't need to be bound by what I may say. And I'll give the reading for you, of course, but you might then build upon the reading depending on what the card is, how you are responding to the card itself. Now, what's also interesting is that the suits here are things like poetry, music, science, and painting, which are, of course, ways in which the divine expresses itself through people, through their imagination and through their creativity. And you'll have a very strong creative impulse as a result of going through and looking at this art here. I'm certain that's the effect that it usually has on people. Now, of course, and look, I might point out some interesting aspects as I see them in the cards using my pen, but of course you're free to, as I say, interpret them as you see fit, the art on them anyway, and find things that are interesting that I may overlook or not react to myself. Now, I've done a number of one-on-one clairvoyant readings for many people over the course of the last month from different countries by FaceTime and Skype. And if you're interested in seeing what's involved in that or curious, have a look at the website below, the description below. I've also done a number of healings as well. Now, I was provided with the spiritual gifts of clairvoyance and healing at birth, or probably at conception, really. But the thing with healing is that I can't receive any reward for it, and the healing comes through me and not from me. You understand the difference there. So I offer the healing for free, and if you're interested in that, the information's in the description below as well. There's no catch. You won't be sold anything, so don't be concerned. You or someone that you know might be interested in that. Now, what we're going to do is, now there are no video ads in this material here. By the way, at the end of the video, after you've viewed it, have a look at my website anyway, because I think that you might find some rather interesting information contained in it, or on it, whatever the preposition is. Now, let's have a look and see what's going on here for you. Let's take 5 cards, shall we, and get it underway for you, my dear Scorpio. The Sun, number 19, and that's exactly the Sun is in Scorpio, isn't it? So there's 15 major arcana, called error in this case. There's the Man of Music. This is the 6 of Painting. And what do we have finally for you here? This, which is the Woman of Music. Well, as is our usual practice, come sit down here next to me. Why don't you and I feast on the artwork contained in these paintings together while I do the reading for you. Okay, let's have a look. A couple of major arcana up here. Oh, a nice figure of the devil or Satan. This is Jesus thing. Look, this isn't going to be religious, but I'll refer to the figures of Satan, Jesus, John the Baptist, probably in the Christian tradition, but it's not a religious thing. I'm using them because they actually happen to be in literature, and they were prominent at the time. That literature was prominent at the time of the poet, who is the artist as well. Now here we have the Sun, and what is going on here? Well, it represents enlightenment, symbolized by the spiritual sun as the source of the river of life. This scene here, I see it as being a sort of a spiritual Eden, a state surpassing joy and beauty, arising from complete confidence in your direction. Now, the central figure here, I would suggest, is that of Jesus, who glides upstream between the banks of innocence on the left and experience on the right, with the tree of life growing on each side. Now you'll see that on the left shore, a woman picks the fruit of the tree and another one nurses her child, while on the right shore, two older people of wisdom stand with you might just make it out there, a child of innocence, I would say. And in the background, the two shores are spanned by the sun, signifying that innocence and experience are joined at the force. Their force is brought about by imagination. And imagination was a key theme of this guy when he was writing poetry. Now, the children in the river, I think, represent the spirit and soul reborn as Adam and Eve, reminding us of Jesus' words, unless you become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, Jesus isn't immersed in the water, is he, as the children are? And that signifies his divine status, I assume. Now, in the right forefront, a very prominent woman is here. And what is she doing? She has a knife of some description that she is using to sever the thread of life and the cord of remembrance, the last attachments to old consciousness. Now, she walks on the surface of the water. Do you see that? Why is that? Because she's not part of mortal life. And in fact, I think she's one of those three fates. In this case, those old crones, those old women who spun the yarns of silken threads that determined people's lives. And I'd say this one is Atropos, the Greek fate who cuts away the material flesh. Now, soaring in front of the sun here is a figure of, I can only assume to be John the Baptist, perhaps, or Saint John, sometimes called the beloved disciple, but we don't really know who the beloved disciple was. It's not stated anywhere. And I'd say that, note that his right arm, which is the spiritual side, connects the river and the sun, while it is the fate's left arm, the material side, which disconnects. Now, this is a particularly good card, I think, for you to have, because this is speaking of a time in which you'll have highly creative energy and a great awareness. Fulfilled love relationship is here, or you have a deepening of a relationship that's presently underway, and there's a degree of wisdom with you. This energy here is just a definite yes. It's talking about success, and I notice success is coming around here as well. Good fortune, optimism, and happiness. Do you know that the sun is the source of life, and it represents success and abundance, and this is going to follow you in your life during this month. This energy will get you through tough times. It's your month, after all, isn't it? The sun will illuminate your path after what has been something of a trying time, I would suggest. But it's a time to embrace your goals and give it everything you've got. And if you have had tough times, things are going to be better. You can move mountains. I must say, I am getting the feeling here of people moving in together or getting married as well. Now, the fulfillment of your wishes, I think, is possible here and now. So relax and just give yourself up to the movement of the universe, to the dance itself, because the right partners will find each other. Now, what task or project is on the agenda for you now? Visualize the light and warmth of the sun in your chest and heart. For the next few days, remind yourself several times daily that the sun is shining in and through you. And say this to yourself: I work well in teamwork situations. I enjoy making contributions to group efforts. I am a cooperative person, and I am in harmony with the divine light, which fills me and guides me. Now, the other major arcana that's up on that line there, the horizontal line, is this one. It's called error. For some reason, that is inexplicable to me. But let's have a look at the scene, shall we? And I'll see if I can restrain myself from using my pen to point things out. But you see that error, actually, and I'll use the word error. We see that error is not in the individual alone. Now, I would say that this is obviously Satan here with his numberless, innumerable subjects, demonic spirits, and powers of the elements. He's surrounded with flames, and I'd say he's speaking about how to tempt and defeat imagination. And imagination, I think, is actually represented by this figure that we saw here of Jesus. Jesus being the source of imagination. Well, I will say this, that I do agree with William Blake in that imagination connects humans with the divine. So I'll say it's Jesus in that case there because I think it's appropriate. Now, the divine spirit of forgiveness is always here, and it is within you. Now, Satan's conspirators here represent all the forces in society that really reinforce and generate error, to use this term again. And this is the vast support system for the false god who deludes you at every step. And today these forces include the media, government, corporations, and other civil society organizations that promote violence, materialism, and just outright stupidity. Now, in this card, Satan's left, you remember that's materialistic hand, well, that holds a sort of a phallic scepter of sovereignty over the flesh. And he has his left foot elevated, doesn't he? And his hand, his right hand, mockingly makes the hand sign of the horned phallus. Now the spears at the left and the right, just make sure you can see those here. Here they are. There's the spears that are there. I think they represent deadly powers, while the single spear down here, you might just see this one down here. That is a weapon against mercy. It also reminds us that Jesus was pierced with a spear, wasn't he? Was that in the Gospel of Luke? I just can't recall off the top of my head. Now, I think that I'm just wondering what this red stuff is on this female spirit, which is what I'm taking it to be. And that is a net that symbolizes the snare of sex as another of Satan's weapons. It's also used very much by the intelligence organizations around the world. Sex and money, that's how you compromise people. Up in the borders, there are some souls that are struggling to ascend or just to hold on, but they're not fastened to anything. And again, just to bring it in again so you can see it, beneath we see a raven which is treading on a serpent, and here there is an owl grabbing a mouse, and these are symbols of mortality and superstition, which can devour the imagination. Now, this energy is that of Saturn ruling Capricorn with Mars exalted, but Mars here in its best form being the fiery material energy of creation. And I think what for you is, you know how you're going to have very good work going on here for you. I think that this energy here is sort of saying that you could even have a tunnel vision going on, be very focused, because this devil isn't distracted by things. He's usually directed at some material goal. And there's nothing wrong with material goals or materialism. You can have spirituality and material success at the same time. People just tend to leave spirituality out of it. Don't. Now this card here, I think, portends well for things relating to your career, for your ambitions, and even for looking after your own best interests. And I think that means that you can really accomplish a lot if you are focused, because the devil isn't distracted by anything. Now, astrologically, of course, Capricorn here, that's the sign of business, career, and worldly success and social standing. The Capricorns are usually hard-working, aren't they? And high achievers. Now, I think it's important that you need to accept that you do have an ambitious side, but to see it for what it is without becoming a slave to it. You'll have a strong desire in this month to compete, to improve, and to win. But do keep a balance between the material side of life and your emotional, social, and spiritual side. I think it's also the case that you might find that you are very sexually attracted to somebody, whether or not you act on it. And there's a desire probably for some sort of a relationship with that person. You know, this is a time also when there may be some people who try to make you out to be a bit of a devil. Well, meet that rumour or conjecture with humour and lightheartedness, and accept what life gives you. Keep your feet on the ground. Now, I will ask you this question. Do you have some wish or desire that you don't admit to? Say this to yourself. I am a vital, joyful, and grounded person. I enjoy my sexuality. Whether my problems are real or imagined, I can handle them realistically and with good humour, because I am the master of my life. Let's go to the other end of that diagonal, shall we, and see what this is saying is also being woven into the tapestry of your life out of this point. And here we have the Six of Painting. Well, very straightforwardly, I'll say this in a moment. Here are two figures clasping onto each other. There is a pathway, which, because I can't help myself, I say is a road leading towards enlightenment, being this sun that's here. Now, I think that this is about receiving material benefits from other people for you, without whose assistance you cannot continue on the high road to achievement, health, or happiness. Now, it is the gift of successful relationships, which is achieved through generosity of spirit and sharing of resources. Note that the nature of the help being offered here is really quite interesting, isn't it? It's sort of ambiguous due to the positioning of the hands. Do you see them? I won't pull it in again. You've got the gist of it there. Now, we assume that the man on the bank is pulling the other guy out of the swamp in order to save him, to place him back on the road that leads to the high ground of spirit. However, he could also be lowering the other into the water. Maybe it's a sort of a baptism of life, or an immersion for the purpose of healing. The man in the water might also be assisting the one on the bank to join him in the flow, or it could be a river, to share the waters of life with him. Now, I think with this energy, you attract or give something of value, whether help, charity, awards. You exchange material energy towards some sort of a worthwhile goal. The challenge is to give unconditionally, according to your ability, and to receive what is freely given. And if you do that, then things are going to work out really well for you. That is because the astrology of this is the moon ruling Taurus, the second decan, which is the 1st to the 10th of May. Now, as you may know, the moon is exalted in Taurus, which means that the moon can be at its best, which is a good sign. But the moon is transient, isn't it? But the moon does like nurturing and comfort. And Taurus is the poster child for material things. So the two of them put together means that the environment is well suited to bringing about material success for you. Now, this is the external manifestation of the inner. There's success and transformation here. Now, success comes to those who go carefully step by step. So examine and scrutinize everything carefully. Jupiter says, be also open to taking some risks. Be open for wonderful surprises and sudden changes or expansion. But the moon that is exalted here says, success must grow out of the inner depths and bring something from these depths into view. You will have some successes during the month, there's no doubt about it. So be open to your success. Do you know it's no less than a gift you can learn to accept humbly, because real success only comes once you have learned to serve. And success under these conditions enriches all levels of your being. Now, what does success mean for you at the moment? Visualize as precisely as possible what your success looks like. But this is a reminder for you to also remember the successes in your life and to build on those. And for those who seek success, there is an element of managed risk here, of being committed, of trusting intuition. But say this to yourself: my self-acceptance and self-confidence, they are the keys to real success. Now, you know how I might have said that I saw William Blake as being a poetic genius, sort of on the same level as Shakespeare himself. And Shakespeare is often referred to as the bard of Avon, the River Avon, the bard. What's a bard, you may ask? Well, bards were Celtic minstrels who acted as heralds, that is, they would bring messages, and they sang heroic songs at celebrations and festivals. Well, I think that the man of music here is such a bard himself, a wise counselor and a gifted visionary. Now, his old beard and advanced age signify his emotional control and his vast experience. Maybe a good term for him would be a wizard, and a wizard means a wise one. So he could be a member of the magical establishment. Now he stands next to what I see being the sea of time and space, the material world, and beneath the branches of the ancient trees where walked the holy word. So he is a conduit between the worlds of matter and spirit. He is a shaman who sings the sagas of the soul. Now, his mystical authority is pointed out by his starry magician's robe, I would say. And crowning this golden harp of his is an angelic muse. A muse is something that brings inspiration, which itself holds another miniature harp. So the bard's imagination roams freely between the ordinary and the sacred, between fantasy and reality, between the past and the future. Now, there's a lot of Aquarius around here, and there's also a lot of Pisces that's about here. The reason is because this energy of Aquarius is going to make you very independent, maybe sort of hard to pin down, but nevertheless you'll have a humanitarian outlook. And Pisces, which is your sister water sign, that will bring you sensitivity and a sort of a dream-like nature. But just be careful that you stay reliable during that time, because sometimes Pisces can just lose track of time, if you know what I mean. There could also be somebody else in your life, and these, incidentally, these court cards,
can be of either. This man can be a woman, and here we have a woman that could be a man. But I'll speak to him as a man as for obvious reasons. Now, as somebody else, or maybe yourself, depending, is someone with commitment issues. Someone who's friendly, but sort of passive, very attracted to excitement, but has an unsustainable enthusiasm for people or causes and can't be dissuaded from them, but doesn't actually really do the homework on what the actual benefit of the person is, or the trustworthiness of the person or the cause. It's a person who can be very sensitive, but deep down is actually very shallow. You'll have a great capacity for giving, and I see that there could also be another person around here who you might know, who tends to mismanage his affairs, his career, can't organize himself, and without luck his life, or his work life, and what's happening with his social life or his relationships is an unbroken record of failure. And very often he's got mental civil wars going on inside his own brain, and that can lead to substance abuse, is what I'm getting here. But it's a person who could be very highly creative and has the ability to give expression to their deep emotions. The gifts he gives are expressions of his striving towards more and more perfect forms of emotional interchange, but it's like they just can't close the deal. Now, I think that you yearn for an intensive interchange with those of a like mind at this time. You might ask yourself, how can the interchange in your relationships be enriched? Seek out your true flock, the community in which you feel at home. And I think there you'll find the quality of the communication that you long for. And say to yourself, I am now finding the contact that I need. Now then we have to deal with her rather quickly, I think. Let me have a look at this picture. Do you know, the pictures actually in this deck, they sort of tell you the story as to what is going to be going on in many respects here. Now, these waters that we see here, to me anyway, are the home of the Greek muses, and therefore because we spoke of a muse before, therefore the birthplace of music and poetry. Now, their waters inspired whoever drank them, and the fragrant flowers which are around here, they were reputed to deprive snakes of their venom. Now, what we see here is that the muse, or the woman of music, is here associated with fire, which is going on in the border, with air which is blowing around, with water that's there. And in these living flowers, these flowers have got like a human form on them, don't they? Well, this is the part of yourself or of another person who listens to the inner chords of life's ecstatic moments. You seek pleasure and peace, and you'll be naturally graceful and gentle and enjoy all of your senses. You will excel at having what I would call a sort of a expanded consciousness, and let me pull that out again now that we've seen it. I just lost my thought. What was I saying? Consciousness will be very expansive, I think, and you'll have an instinct for taking everything in without focusing on anything in particular. Now, you could find that you are psychic, and you will easily reflect other people's feelings and projections. Now, in the face of harsh realities, you may escape into solitude, or maybe into some addictions like comfort, eating, drinking, and other things. But you'll love life, and likely, I think, you are going to vigorously laugh with joy or unashamedly weep with sorrow. Now remember that by showing your feelings openly, you become beautiful. Now there may be some people who don't understand you. Well, don't concern yourself about it. There are enough others with whom you can share your feelings. Now, are you open to your emotions and feelings? Trust your feelings. Live in harmony with them. And say to yourself, my openness and vitality, it makes me beautiful. Well, what a fantastic spread of cards for you, and what a good month for you. And isn't it a good month for you to have a good month? Well done, you.
Well, I told you that that was an interesting deck, didn't I? And I think you'll agree with me that it was. And what a wonderful month it's going to be for you. Don't you deserve it? Really, you do. Do you know what? I love doing your readings. I look forward to seeing you each month, and in particular, look forward to seeing the subscribers. Very, very dear to my heart. Well, I guess unless I see you privately, then I'll see you again next month. And until then, remember one thing, and it is this, that you are a legend. And I look forward to seeing you again next month. And until then, it's bye for now.